Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. Okay, under normal circumstances, we would do too powerful for the Marvel movies, right? But we're not, because like Endgame just came out. It's like the weekend of the weekend of the movie's release. I imagine most people are going to see it. I probably saw it last night, and a lot of people are definitely going to see it today. I saw the movie times. It's like a bajillion movie times. It's smashed like almost every box office record. I haven't looked through the list of all of them, but it's made like $300 million in like just these 2 days, just like Thursday and Friday. Like it's insane how much money this movie's making. It'll break the record for Avatar. It's gonna smash Avatar. It's crazy. Having said that, I can't be too loud because Mariah's upstairs sleeping, and so I don't want to wake her up because, like, man, let me tell you something. You wake Mariah up from her beauty sleep, woe betide the poor soul who does that. Like man, you're in for it if you make that mistake. And it's kind of sunny outside. Okay, so like spoilers. This is gonna have spoilers for Avengers Endgame, FYI, just so you guys are aware. Beta Ray Bill. Now here's the thing. This did not initially occur to me. Like it didn't even cross my mind. Like when I was sitting in the theater and I was watching the theater, I uploaded the video yesterday, and like a lot of times I'll go through the comments just to see like ideas that you guys have, because you guys usually, like, a lot of you guys think of things that I don't, and so I was like, okay, so this is you guys. This is not me. I did not think of this. This is you guys. You guys were pointing out the fact that like Thor is now on, like, basically joined the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Like, so Thor's part of the Guardians of the Galaxy team, which is kind of cool because normally it would have been Iron Man, but of course Tony Stark is dead. And anyway, so Thor's part of the Guardians. He's gonna take off into space, and people like you guys were leaving a slew of comments, and you were like, Rob, do you know what they're going to do? And it's like, well, I don't know. What are they gonna do with Thor on Guardians of the Galaxy? And people are just like, Beta Ray Bill. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, oh my god, they're gonna do Beta Ray Bill. Look, here's the thing. So during Walt Simonson's run on Thor, in issue number 337, Beta Ray Bill was introduced. And the way this played out is that Nick Fury had contacted Thor because there was a ship that was entering the solar system, and that was really like pretty close to Earth. And Nick Fury was like, you have to go out there and you have to check it out. This is long before the introduction of S.W.O.R.D., right? So like S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of does double duty on keeping an eye on things that involve Earth, but not really looking out into the greater landscape of space. And so Thor goes and responds. Thor comes across the ship's scuttlebutt, and then like basically a fight breaks out between him and like Beta Ray Bill. And so what you end up learning is that Beta Ray Bill, and like he's basically a member of a race called the Corbinites. They're from the planet Corbin, and their galaxy had seemingly been destroyed by like Surtur and fire demons, and so they were like the last survivors of their race, and they were basically refugees. They were just like trying to find a place to live in the galaxy somewhere. But using technology, Beta Ray Bill is basically augmented, and he became kind of like their own Captain America-esque sort of character, insofar as he was like a protector of their people. And so when Thor showed up and Scuttlebutt sensed Thor as a threat, it woke up Beta Ray Bill. The fight broke out between the two of them, and this was during the era when if Thor lost his hammer for 60 seconds, he turned back into Donald Blake, and the hammer turned back into a cane. And so because of this, when the fight breaks out between the two of them, Thor separated from his hammer for 60 seconds. He's knocked unconscious as Donald Blake by Beta Ray Bill, and then Beta Ray Bill picks up the cane, smacks it on the ground, and then becomes like basically gets the power of Thor. Now, this is a very important thing, and the reason why is because Beta Ray Bill was the first person in the history of Marvel Comics to wield the hammer of Thor. Now, at this point in time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that sort of cool thing has been lost. In reality, I think it was a mistake letting Vision be the first one to lift the hammer of Thor. I think it should have been Captain America. I think Captain America should have been the first one to pick it up. It was cool to see in Avengers Endgame, but how much more impactful would it have been had Vision not lifted it beforehand, right? Because like you can't unring that bell. Like you can't go back and not say, well, that didn't actually happen. It did. Like there's no way to get around that. And so it was really awesome to see, and like watching Captain America beat the hell out of Thanos with the hammer of Thor was probably one of the most boss-ass things I've ever seen in my life, like in any comic book movie ever. But the impact of that moment was lost because Vision was the first one to lift it. And so what that means is that if Beta Ray Bill comes along, there's the impact of Beta Ray Bill arriving would not be the most significant thing in the world. If anything, it would be fan service. It would just bring in a Thor fan favorite, and like that would be it, right? Because it'd be different if Captain America didn't pick it up, and it would be different if Vision never picked up the hammer of Thor, and instead Beta Ray Bill was the one to do it. But the problem with that is the significance of picking up the hammer of Thor basically comes in like the situation. Like for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's situational. For comics, it's just kind of like, okay, cool. So somebody's the first person ever picked it up, and it's a huge thing because you've got this huge, expansive history of Thor, and like Walt Simonson had like this really amazing run with all these different things. Not the best run. I think Jason Aaron has the best run, but the fact remains that for the casual movie goer, it has to be like it has to be contextual, right? That's why I say Captain America picking it up, if he had been the only one to ever do it, would have been a lot cooler, because it's like desperate times call for desperate measures. But the fact remains that bringing Beta Ray Bill in would be cool, but it would not be the biggest thing ever, right? Like it would just be a person that's being thrown in there. In reality, and this is going to go against the grain for a lot of people who are Beta Ray Bill fans, and it's probably going to piss them off, don't really care. I would not let Beta Ray Bill pick up Thor's hammer. Like I would remove that from, and that's kind of the crazy thing, because it's really the only thing that makes him significant. Now, the brotherhood that formed between Beta Ray Bill and Thor. So for those guys who are unfamiliar with comics, whenever Thor needs help, he goes to Beta Ray Bill. Like he'll go to the Avengers, but like Beta Ray Bill and Thor are like brothers, essentially, you know, like warrior brothers. But that bond was forged more through conflict than the fact that like Beta Ray Bill picked up the hammer of Thor. And so because of that, I would not have Beta Ray Bill pick up the hammer of Thor. Instead, I would give him Stormbreaker. So here's the way this played out. In Marvel Comics, because Beta Ray Bill picked up the hammer of Thor, the question was who deserves to be worthy. And so there was essentially a small little duel or contest of sorts that was held between Beta Ray Bill and Thor. And I think that Beta Ray Bill won the contest. But regardless of the circumstance, Odin basically fashioned for Beta Ray Bill his own hammer called Stormbreaker. And it looks different than the one that you see right now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but for all intents and purposes, it's the same thing. In reality, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the giant axe thing that Thor wields, that's Yarnbjorn. They just call it a different name. But they call it Stormbreaker in the films. So literally all you do is you bring Beta Ray Bill in, and you basically say, okay, so like Beta Ray Bill is some guy who's trying to escape or whatever. Some fight breaks out between him and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe he lifts Thor's hammer, I don't really know, but whatever the case is, Thor begins to see him as more of like an ally and a friend, and with the two of them working together, they basically go forward and you know, Beta Ray Bill gets Stormbreaker, and they fight as, you know, brothers in arms, more or less, or something along those lines. Now, the reason why I say I would not give Beta Ray Bill the hammer of Thor is because at that point, what you're running into is you're running into losing the effect, right? Like, right, wrong, or otherwise, over the years, Marvel's had a lot of people lift the hammer of Thor, right? Like Beta Ray Bill was the first. You've had Captain America who lifted it. Captain America only did it in the moment though, right? Like that's one of the big things, that's one of the big misconceptions. Captain America did it in the moment, the first time he did it. And then the second time he legit picked it up, you know, like I think it was during Fear Itself or something like that. He legit picked up the hammer and like wielded it. But the fact remains that one of the big complaints that Thor fans have right now, which I can see where they're coming from, although to me it's not that huge of a deal anymore. But one of the big complaints that they have is that the nature of being able to wield Thor's hammer, like the significance of somebody picking up Thor's hammer, is long since gone because so many people have done it. Like the novelty's worn off. So it's like, you know, Thor loses his hammer, then like somebody picks it up, and instead of it being like, oh my god, you know, it's just kind of like cool, and then like you turn the page and that's it, you know, and that's really all you get out of it. It's one of those things that people say is done for the sake of shock value as opposed to like genuinely benefiting the story. And so because that's the risk you run into in the MCU, because what you would have is over the course of 3 films spanning 5 or 6 years, you've had Vision, Captain America, and now Beta Ray Bill all lift the hammer of Thor. And basically it would give the perception out to the average moviegoer, everybody's worthy of wielding Thor's hammer. And that's not what you want. You want Thor's hammer to be a very coveted thing. You want somebody who manages to pick up Thor's hammer for it to be a very significant thing. It rarely ever happens, right? Like over the course of the life of the MCU, it might happen maybe 5 more times, but like that's it. And when I say over the life of the MCU, I mean like the next like 50 years. It happens like 5 times, like once every 10 years it'll happen, and that's it, you know. you don't want to overdo it. And I feel like with Beta Ray Bill doing it so close to succession, you know, because we know we're going to basically get the new Guardian, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It already finished filming. And so as far as I'm aware, Guardians 3 will basically take place before the events of Infinity, or before the events of Endgame. I'm assuming it will. Like I'm you know, probably even before Infinity War. I don't think anybody has any details on the script. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really looked into it, but I doubt Thor will be a part of that team. And so we could largely assume that because Marvel Comics now has as Guardians of the Galaxy, that because Marvel Comics copies the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that what you're going to see is basically like Guardians of the Galaxy 4, which is essentially going to be as Guardians of the Galaxy. So you got Thor, you know, and so on and so forth. But still, Beta Ray Bill will be a really, really cool thing. And again, there's other benefits that come out of Beta Ray Bill aside from the fact that he can lift Thor's hammer. The camaraderie between him and Thor is amazing to see. Like, it's, you know, yes, brother, I'm always here, I'm always on your side. It's one of these things where, like, now they have another powerhouse that's out there that could be used for the purpose of, like, fighting some foe or something along those lines. But really, introducing Beta Ray Bill, as cool as it would really just be fan service, which is not a bad thing. I mean, they could bring in God, Gore the God Butcher. That's just fan service. I mean, sure, he's powerful enough to kill all the Avengers, but he never fought all the Avengers. He only fought like Thor over 3 different time periods, which would still be badass to see. But you know, Beta Ray Bill would just be fan service, really, to Thor fans. You know, I mean, again, not the end of the world, but you can make a plot out of it. But I think there's other characters out there, other villains that are out there, other stories that can be done that I think would be more impactful and more interesting than the story of Beta Ray Bill. But I mean, I would do that for like a standalone Thor film if they made like a Thor 4, you know, or 4 rather. One of the things that you guys will notice too about the MCU is they never do more than 3 films on a singular character, right? You got Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, Captain America 1, 2, and 3, Thor 1, 2, and 3. You've got Ant-Man 1 and 2. We're getting Ant-Man 3. You know, that's really it. You only ever get like trilogies when it comes to characters, which is smart. You know, it's a smart move. Avengers 1, 2, and 3. Like, that's basically it. So, it's a cool little thing, but nonetheless, you know, I like the idea. I like the notion behind it, but I would not necessarily look to it as a big, huge event, right? Like, I would look to it as like a singular Thor film. So if they decide to make a Thor 4, which I don't think they would, then I think Beta Ray Bill would do well there, and then feature him in other stories with characters later on down the line. But I would not make him a villain of like the new Avengers film, like New Avengers. I would not make him a villain of that film. I would not make him a villain of anybody but a Thor film, or Thor on the Guardians of the Guardians of the Galaxy team. That would be it. Like, that would literally be the limit to the thing. Because the way that would play out would be simple enough. Like, you literally have Thor and the Guardians who are traveling through space. They run across Scuttlebutt and like the ship with all the Corbinites on it. And like, they go to investigate, and the ship believes they're all a threat, so it wakes up Beta Ray Bill. A fight breaks out, and then something happens. Maybe he lifts the hammer, maybe he doesn't, I don't know. But something happens, and basically, like, it's like, hey, everybody stop fighting. We got to hear this guy's story. He tells a story of what happened, and they say, okay, fine. You know, Thor deems him worthy, gives him Stormbreaker, and then like Thor and Beta Ray Bill and the Guardians of the Galaxy go over to whatever happened to his planet and destroy whatever villain that is, and then the movie's done, and that's it. Like, I mean, it's a pretty simple process. It's not an overly convoluted thing, but yeah, I would keep it limited to that, because Beta Ray Bill's just not really significant enough to be a villain for like a whole Avengers group. And even if he was, there'd be no reason for him to, because he's a good guy. Like, he was worthy to lift Thor's hammer. He's not a villain. You know, he's a good guy. I think that Awesome Andy would be a cool villain. And was it Awesome Andy Android? I can't, it's been so long. I want to say it's Awesome Andy. But I would either grab him. I think he'd be a cool villain. I'm kind of pulling from obscurity for that kind of thing. Awesome Andy, I think, would be a cool villain for, or like the not the Ultra Humanite. What is that guy? The Super Adaptoid, I think it was. Grab him. Something along those lines, like some character out there that make a cool villain for the new Avengers, next Avengers film. But nonetheless, you know, I'm kind of rambling here, kind of going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and bounce off here, guys. I'm gonna send this video off to my editor. He's gonna get it put together. Hopefully it'll be up in the next few hours. If you guys are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.